The monthly Frontier Unlocked livestream just got finished this evening and it was chock full of massive announcements. We have full specifications for the Cobra Mark 5 and a release date for the ship into early access, and we've had a full breakdown of just how the new system colonization feature will work, so here is a breakdown of everything we just learned. So the Cobra Mark 5 then. First things first, the new ship is actually a small class vessel in line with the Cobra Mark 3 and 4 and not a medium vessel as was incorrectly stated on the previous Frontier Unlocked. Unusually for a small ship, it's a 3-seater with a cockpit housing 2 passenger or multi-crew seats slightly above and behind the centrally mounted pilot seat. As with all the new generation ships, the Cobra Mark 5 is built to natively support Supercruise overcharge, making it the first small landing pad capable SCO vessel. The Cobra Mark 5 also differs from the other next generation vessels in the game in that it not only fits a small landing pad, but it is also not aimed at a specific role in the game, preferring instead to be a much more of a generalist multi-purpose vehicle. Of the other previous generation multi-purpose ships, FDev have said that the Mark 5 will absolutely be the best in its class, but it isn't designed to outperform in specific roles, particularly when it comes to high-end play. It will however rival, at least, some of the older role specific ships. The Mark 5 will however have a significant advantage when it comes to manoeuvrability in normal space as well as its SCO capabilities. That's the driving ethos and comparisons to current vessels out the way, so here are all the important internal details. The ship will have 4 utility mounts compared to the Cobra Mark 3's 2 utility slots. The hardpoint configuration from the Mark III version of DeLacy's venerable workhorse have been carried over with the addition of an extra Class 2 hardpoint, giving it a total of 3 Class 2s and 2 Class 1s. The twin Class 1 hardpoints appear to be either side of the cockpit on the upper surface, the same as the currently widely available version of the Cobra, and we think we can see the extra Class 2 hardpoint on the upper back end of the ship between the engines. The duo of Class 2 hardpoints look to be underslung on either side of the cockpit. The core internals that you can see on screen now are all exactly the same as the Cobra Mark III, except in the area of the power distributor, where the Mark V has a Class 4 instead of the Cobra Mark III's Class 3. If, like me, you're thinking this could replace your aging but fully engineered Cobra Mark III, then it'll make moving all the core components over into the new ship a no-brainer. It's in the optional internals that the Mark V sees its biggest upgrades however, now bringing with it the following: 1 Class 5, 3 Class 4s, 3 Class 3s, 1 Class 2 and 2 Class 1s, leaving plenty of room and options for a variety of different configurations, leaning heavily into the Mark V's jack of all trades theming. Unlike the previous next gen ships, which all sported reused cockpits from previous generation ships, the cockpit of the new Cobra, as well as potentially housing 3 commanders, has been completely rebuilt for the new ship in the 10th anniversary year of Elite Dangerous. From what we've seen so far in footage released by Frontier of the still work in progress Cobra, this appears to be most apparent when it comes to the Mark V's forward visibility. The pilot and passengers are sitting behind a massive floor to ceiling sloping wall of glass that goes right from a wide view between the pilot's feet all the way to behind their head, giving the ship a huge unobstructed view all around the Mark V's sharp end. Cost wise, all Frontier's previous early access ships have been available in their standard format for 16,520 ARCs or 33,000 ARCs for an A-rated pre-build version with a ship kit and paint jobs. FDev haven't announced anything specifically as at the time of recording, but we've no reasons to currently believe the Cobra Mark V will be priced any differently for its early access rollout. And FDev have announced that the early access period of the ship begins on Tuesday the 10th of December, just 2 weeks from now. Right then, let's talk system colonisation. This information came to us quite late in the day today and there is a huge amount to unpack. It's undoubtedly one of the biggest, most important features that Elite Dangerous has ever announced. So today I'm just going to run through in broad terms what FDev spoke about and importantly what they showed. The info drop on colonisation took the form of a pre-recorded interview between FDev's head of comms and community Arthur Tolmie and Piers Jackson, who is the game director for Elite Dangerous. At the start of the interview, Arthur and Piers touched on the events of the past year in the game and also noted that the full procedural Thargoid war had been running for around 2 years and was in the planning and development stage for around a year before that. There were also hints between the two that perhaps the fall of the last Titan, which currently looks to be fairly imminent, might not be as smooth as we first suspected, also noting that we as players have been applying human logic when trying to determine alien motivations. As the chat continued, the pair mentioned that a goal at the company has been to make the narrative in the game determined by the players. The revamp of power play is part of that philosophy, as is system colonisation, and they also mentioned that this year the team had been looking at the more grindy parts of the game and trying to reduce that, engineering being part of that, and also the addition of Supercruise Overcharge, effectively getting you to what you want to do quicker while still allowing the galaxy to be huge and making travel within it a big part of the Elite experience. It was then that the conversation moved on to colonisation proper, and Piers explained in broad terms how the colonisation process would work and what the gameplay would look like. System colonisation starts with a new system colonisation contact in the game who will be present in inhabited systems in the bubble. From that contact you'll be able to purchase a claim on a system that is within a specified distance. Currently that distance is 10 light years, but that's still being finalised at the moment. If no one else has made a claim on the system you pick, then you can stake your claim to that system. When you do that, you'll be loaded up with a colonisation beacon, and you then have 24 hours to travel to the correct system and deploy that colonisation beacon. If you don't deploy the beacon within 24 hours, then it reverts to a claimable state, making it available again for someone else to grab. Once you've deployed your beacon, you'll be able to choose your primary starport, the location of which will be predetermined in the target system. After that, a huge colonisation ship will arrive, Piers describing the new vessel as one of the biggest ships they've ever created. That colonisation ship is populated by a lot of large landing pads. The colonisation ship's task is to receive haulage deliveries for the construction of the system, and it will contain a shopping list of needed materials that will vary depending on what you're building. Anyone can deliver these required goods, and we're guessing it will all function somewhat like an existing community goal system, but entirely player driven. For the primary starport, the required materials must be delivered within a set time, again to prevent players blockading systems and not using them, and then once all the required materials are delivered, the starport will be deployed. Initially, the starports will be in an under construction phase. Some systems will be offline and it won't be spinning, and then when the Thursday tick comes around, the starport will go fully deployed, and eventually, its job complete, the colonisation ship will depart. Once the primary starport is established, the colonisation beacon will become a regular navigation beacon, and the station will receive a colonisation contact that can then start the process again in another star system if needed. However, as the player that first established that star system, you then become the system architect, and you can then determine what else, if anything, can get built in that system, and importantly, you can also determine where it gets built. Piers did say that when the newly colonised system comes online, it isn't controlled by a power, but it is subject to power play rules, presumably meaning a power could move into it with the right player effort. The contact that you purchase the colonisation beacon from, however, is BGS faction aligned, and that faction will move into the system immediately, and again BGS rules will apply to the system and any BGS factions that then move into the system thereafter. Piers then began to talk about deployment of the new system and planetary surface assets, all of which, within some boundaries, is player controlled. As far as space facilities are concerned, the positions in a system that hold a space facility of one flavour or another will be shown on the system map. Once you've selected a suitable site, a space construction facility will arrive and the process of fulfilling a shopping list of materials begins again, with deliveries being made to that orbital construction site. For both orbital and surface ports, the larger starports will require infrastructure from smaller starports to be available first, so when colonising a system you won't be able to immediately jump to a huge rotating orbital port. You'll need to start smaller and work up. And when dealing with surface facilities, you'll be able to choose what type of facility you want, whether it's an Odyssey level facility or a Horizons level planetary starport, and best of all, you'll be able to choose exactly where to put it and how it is orientated. During the conversation, the team showed off some work in progress footage of the outline of various surface facilities being placed and rotated in the engine on a planet's surface. Once the spot is chosen, a ground-based construction site is spawned and the material process starts over to fulfill the needs of that specific construction. There's a whole gameplay process that will be present that will drive the economy and success of a given system, and for longer range colonisation this will need to be accounted for to help provide the materials needed for the further out construction efforts. Otherwise, potentially players will be required to transport goods over extreme distances from the bubble in order to supply the requirements of an extended range colonisation project. So the makeup of a system and what is placed in it by the architect will drive what that system is able to supply and how successful it is. Piers stated that they believe smaller micro bubbles with fully functioning economies will form out in the black as part of this effort as time progresses. System colonisation was expected to launch this year, but it has been delayed somewhat, coming off the back of a year rammed with content in the game anyway, so it's currently expected to arrive early next year. However, as it's as complex as it is, it will also be subject to a public beta test before it enters the game proper. I've really just lightly touched on the details that we've seen today. I think it's fair to say that system colonisation is about to become a huge driving force in the current game now and long into the future. It's going to be really exciting to see what players do with it and how the very face of the Elite Dangerous Galaxy changes forever once it arrives in the game proper. Are you planning on getting a Cobra Mark 5 in early access, and what do you plan to use your Mark 5 for? And what do you think of Frontier's plans for system colonisation? Let us know in the comments below. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe so that YouTube shows you all our content, and if you'd like to support our work here at the Buur Pit, you can also join our Patreon. Links to that and everything we've talked about in this video you'll find linked below. That's it for now. Thanks very much for watching. We very much look forward to seeing you next time.